Welcome to Deleted Saves. On this episode, Darkstalkers for the arcade. When the arcade scene began to move away from side scrolling beat 'em ups to versus fighters, much like that which had come before them, they followed a formula. Two men in a superior level of idealized physical health punch each other until success. But today's topic was different in that the famous monsters of Hollywood were doing the punching. So let's get into 1994's Darkstalkers. Now, to be clear, the Darkstalkers game is an entire series. Today I'll be just covering the first in the series, subtitled The Night Warriors. As the story goes, in the early 1990s, there was a decision within Capcom headquarters to make another game using the Street Fighter II engine, considering how groundbreaking and earth-shaking that game's success was. But from there, the story gets a little fuzzy as to how we got Darkstalkers. Supposedly, during a brainstorming session, a colleague named Akitomo suggested a monster fighting game, and the idea was handed over to Junichi Ono, a planner within Capcom. Originally, it was to feature Japanese yokai monsters, the collective term for Japan's demons, ghosts, fairies, ghouls, goblins, and the like. But it was decided that monsters from around the world should be included. According to American producer Alex Jimenez, the idea was for it to be a Universal Monsters fighter, but Universal Studios would not release the rights to its properties to make the game, so alternatives had to be sought. At the time, fighting games relied on stereotypes, lots of them, to be successful. If you've ever played a fighting game before, you'll usually find some variant on the hero character who wanders the world eternally in training to be the best fighter in the world, the pretty muscle lady, the giant wall of meat with a funny accent, the Bruce Lee ripoff, the Monster Man or other weirdo, a ninja, and the like. But Capcom, along with another planner who worked within the character designs named Haru Murata, chose to go a new way, adding as much as they could to shake up that formula with unique character concepts and personality traits to help shape this new batch of After Dark combatants. Taking inspiration from the overseas Capcom staff and their suggestions, the Japan based team began to spin a lot of lore around the quote unquote demon world that surrounded Darkstalkers, and how it was a dark reflection of our own, so that Darkstalkers truly became one of the first wholly worldwide business teams of Capcom developed games. This included going against the Japanese sensibility to make all the characters' endings happy, instead adding dark and depressing ones, as this is a monster game after all, and the most memorable horror endings are never the happy ones. So, what exactly did we get in the arcades when this thing was done? We got a fighting game, of course. However, instead of characters punching each other to be the best, or win a prize, or stop an organized global terrorist syndicate, our story revolves around an alien made entirely of fire named Pyron, who has arrived on Earth with the desire to enslave and then destroy the planet. Who can stand against this otherworldly threat? Why, only Earth's last defenders, monsters. But instead of teaming up to beat this foe as a group, they have to punch, kick, and slash each other to prove who is tough enough to do the job. Our roster of characters covers all the hits: Dimitri the Vampire Lord, John Talbane the Werewolf, Victor von Gerdenheim the Frankenstein's Monster, Lord Raptor the heavy metal playing zombie, Morrigan the Succubus, Anakaris the Mummy, Felicia the Cat Lady, Bishamon the Haunted Samurai Armor, Rico the Kappa / Creature from the Black Lagoon, and lastly Sasquatch, the short roly-poly Yeti. Each one does cover a type of fighter commonly found in the genre, such as the balanced character who is fast and strong, the heavy character focused entirely on strength, the speedy character focused entirely on speed, the magic character based around complex special moves, and a few joke characters that don't really rely on anything other than being funny, and players dedicating it and to overcoming the obvious challenge associated with playing them. But before they can get through to Pyron, whoever defeats the other monsters will have to face a creature called Huitzel, an ancient robot made of stone that was dug up from Mayan ruins and has a specific Mesoamerican look. That was supposedly built by Pyron eons ago to destroy all life on Earth when dinosaurs ruled, before an earthquake buried it. And that's kind of it. Believe me, reviewing the plots of fighting games is even harder than that of beat 'em ups, as the plot is mostly pointless. Players don't generally care what the fuck the plot is as long as they're using some sort of Ubermensch, or Uberfrau, I guess, to beat up other players with arcade and hand gestures using buttons and an arcade stick. This is called fun. And if you are into the game, then yeah, it is fun. I'm generally not a fighting game player, but if it's something like that with a premise I can get behind, then sure, I'll learn a bit about it. Darkstalkers was a monster hit, pun intended, and reviewed very well in 1994. It went on to spawn several sequels and a small media empire of anime TV series, one-shot original video animations, comics and manga, figurines, and a lot of related junk in Japan that we had to go through haphazard import into the US to get, as we often do with overseas properties. I hate to say it, but a lot of the pop culture crap that followed in the game's afterbirth supplied a lot of the post-game lore and sometimes proved more interesting than the game itself, even if it was bizarre and another example of Western myth told through a culture unfamiliar with it. But damn, they tried real hard. I don't say that as a bad thing, more of an amusing thing. I'm all for someone else who doesn't deal with it in everyday life trying to translate the shit stories and fables we feed ourselves. It's goddamn hilarious usually and really casts a reflection on us as a culture. But anyway, here's the part where I come in. How did I stumble across this title, and why did I think it was worth my time? Well, longtime listeners have heard me talk about the mall and the other mall in my hometown region. But by the mid 1990s, the city of Scranton was desperate to try and revitalize its downtown, which had been slowly dying since Big Coal pulled out of the region in the late 40s and 1950s, faster than the paranoid husband finding out the prostitute he hired has venereal disease. The downtown featured multiple tenant buildings that used to house silk mills and workhouses, and actual department stores like Woolworths or Lauer and Marks or our very own Globe store, trying to ape the success of Macy's or Neiman Marcus in New York City, back when a department store was a whole ass building all of its own, and not just another retail space inside a mall complex. By the 90s, all of those were abandoned and owned by the city because they had to be. Well, the big brains that ran Scranton at the time came up with the Steamtown Mall, a two-story mall of retail spaces, downtown parking, attached movie theater, all the goods. People didn't really want it, but it went ahead anyway, with a mix of public funds and private development money, by which I mean blood money from some mix of corporate officials and corrupt officials and the mob. And in 1993, we got yet another mall for a combined population of 70,000 people spread over 5 counties in yet another region of Pennsylvania to waste limited money on. Of course, there was an arcade added to the upstairs food court. And of course I went there because, well, like most of the local citizens, there was very little to do on any night from Sunday to Saturday, any given week, and of course you go see the elephant when the circus rolls into town, metaphorically speaking. Tucked away in a corner of this crowded arcade, full of folks I'd seen up the road at Top Dog, was Darkstalkers, usually lonely and orphan when it was overshadowed by Tekken and Soul Calibur, cabinets for both which were nearby and crowded by many teenagers and young 20-somethings, crowing about how good they were at it and how their life's mission would be to dominate these games. I won't say which teenagers were most crowded around those cabinets, because they were an extreme minority population in Scranton, and I would be accused of promoting ethnic stereotypes or slurs if I did, but damn, they were good at those games. In any case, I usually got to play Darkstalkers by myself, which is how I prefer it. I always picked John Talbane, because as I've said before, way back in my review of Werewolf the Last Warrior for the NES, now there's a fucking callback, that werewolves have always been my favorite monster. Talbane is a speed-based character with complex, for me anyway, special moves to pull off. I'm bad at fighting games. Like, really bad. You do not want me on your team in any sort of fighting game competition thing. And I had picked to main, as they say, The worst type of character for me. But fuck you, I had fun. And since no one else is playing the game, if I chose to waste my quarters on it, that was on me. I never got far in the game. Usually I'd been destroyed by the computer by the third opponent, and I was sweating both from the muggy atmosphere of the arcade and from my brow trying to figure out how to get the character to work. And even when a home copy appeared on the original PlayStation, and I bought one, back when the PlayStation had actual long box CD cases, I still sucked at it. But it was a great time waster. And it was fun to use some creatures of the night to beat up other creatures of the night, in a way Universal would never allow because they were too worried about their precious properties based on public domain fables. And I had fun playing the werewolf yet again, in all of its anime crazy glory. Oh, and if y'all are wondering, the Steamtown Mall went out of business in 2014, unable to pay its bills to no one's fucking surprise. It is now the marketplace at Steamtown, a mix of some retail, medical offices, takeout restaurants, and a martial arts studio. Just like any other strip mall in America, except this one's stuffed in tenements, and with the old folks still being worried that you'll only be mugged if you go downtown there, like they were in 1993. You know, by the one mugger or transient that Scranton could afford to have if he wasn't busy sleeping by the river. Like some sort of a living embodiment of a Hank Williams Jr. song. Christ. But there you are, folks. Me and Darkstalkers in the mid-90s. I liked monsters and I got to play fight with them. That's it. All she wrote. It was magical not having to get good to beat other human opponents and just enjoy a fighting game for what it was. Fantasy Punch-Man fulfillment. Which I couldn't really do elsewhere in town because, other players. But here I am talking about it almost 20 years later. Holy shit, it's been that long, hasn't it? So it made a lasting impression. And a fond one at that. If you can find it somewhere, play it for a unique experience, if nothing else. And if you're into retail development, please, for the love that is all capitalist, don't do it in a dying old small town. Walmart has that shit covered already. You'll only lose money and make the college degree that you had to get worth less than the paper it's printed on. Thank you for listening. Deleted Saves would like to thank Brad, Keith Gasper, and Masked Llama for being patrons of the show. If you would like to become a patron of the show, please go to patreon.com and check out Deleted Saves Podcast. All donations go directly towards maintaining the show itself. Thank you.